Hello, Frida Reba Darcy and Patricia O'Connor here, and today it is a wintry in the Bay of California day, and we are certainly starting to show off our fall colors. I thought I would take a minute and show what I've been doing. The trees, the cypress trees, my little sun-hungry sun babies have finally started to slow down a little, and I took advantage of the situation. When the trees finally slowed down, and I don't think they're going to be photosynthesizing quite as much, I was looking at a few limbs that I thought were disproportionately thick up at the top, and I was also looking at a few limbs that were kind of like what that is, except maybe more so. Those are like bicycle handlebars, except if it were actually here, that would be bicycle handlebars. That's pretty close to that. You should be more every other one. Kind of like what's going on there. That's a nice spacing. That's a little close. And I didn't want to get rid of all of them. I've got a new lease on life when it comes to cutting out the stuff off of a tree that I don't want. If you've got several things on a tree that you think maybe over time you might need to cut back or prune back, I'm trying to be a little bit more strategic about it. For instance, I waited until the limbs had already given back some energy from the energy it took to make them before I lopped them. And also, I didn't lop all of them. I think this guy and this guy is still possibly a little disproportionately thick for being this far up the tree because there's smaller branches underneath it, right? But probably closer to spring, I'll shorten a lot of these guys back so that they can fork off and start doing some more ramification. That's kind of what we want to go there. And to that end, also, I kind of like, for instance, this. I debated long. That's obviously too long. And all of these little bumps are bud sites. So right now, we're trying to direct all of our energy up this little shaft. We're trying to heal this over, and I've already cut back to a new leader and started a new one that I'm really happy with, right? So we've got everything going there. Comes spring, onward and upward. Look at those colors. Aren't those colors so pretty? So, but in the meanwhile, I didn't want to slow the energy off to a drip. It's already going to slow down some because this is December, going on February, going on January, and then February, yada yada. But still in all, come spring, when this starts budding out a lot more, I'll pick a couple that I like and clip this off to there. Meanwhile, this is probably the biggest drawer, if you can use that word. This is probably the biggest draw of resources up the tree, and so I didn't want to cut that off. I wanted that little, as the siphons go, I wanted it to keep feeding this as a sacrifice branch, as long as stuff is still happening, even a little bit, right? Just don't want to cut everything off completely. But this is starting to take shape, I think. You can I'm already starting to see the shape of the trees that I would like for these guys to be. And I'm already looking forward. To spring and seeing some of this stuff take off. That was last summer's cutback. It's got a good deal of rollback on it, rollover on it. You can see all of this is rollover from last year, so that's good. I've also been chewing on the edge a little. I don't want that rollover to get slow and tired and stop. I have seen some bonsai people take a box knife and trim at this inside edge to keep that edge rough and new and healing over, and in the hopes of speeding up this rollover. That rollover seems to be doing fine. And to that end, when I saw that happening, I was wondering if a little steel wool inside that edge might have been a pretty good way to do the same thing instead of a box knife. So also, you can see what I'm talking about here. This is our rollover, and this is where I took one of my root cutters and started chewing away on the edge here, and chewing away on the edge here, trying to meet this rollover halfway, so that I don't have so that I don't end up with a really sharp looking. You know, the idea is you don't want it to look like a cut pole inside of a sock or something. You want it to heal over. So that's kind of what I got going on there. And then going up, this is where we had a knot, and then it went up about, find my finger, about that high, and then forked off into the flat top. The flat top still covered a lot of stuff on this tree. And then I already decided that I wasn't gonna allow that to go on much longer than that. So it was just a matter of how much energy do we let it give back before we cut it. And I didn't want to see that get any fatter than it was. I didn't want to invest any more time in that top. I would like for the next guy, maybe this guy or whoever comes out next, to go up and be our new leader. I'll pick one out and then wire it straight up, and then I'll go back with the clippers and redo that edge to where it looks more like, you see how I did that? That was, I put a chop on it probably up here. That leader came out all super bad looking. So I put the wire around it, bent it straight up, and then cleaned up my chop so that it looks like they were all apart. That is what I will do over here once that starts coming, or once that starts filling out with new shoots come later. Meanwhile, this is kind of what cypress tree ramification looks like. I can already start to see the lacy beautifulness of this dang tree. It just, it'll make us all look so good. It'll make us look like we almost know what we're doing. And, yeah, this is worthwhile. I just thought I would take a minute and show you a little bit of, I wanted to wait this year until everything well and truly started slowing down, and even the greenest, brightest, greenest stuff is now starting to yellow, and everything is slowing down. So this is when I felt like it would have been, it was a really good opportunity to cut back and to into my new methods. I am going to reduce how much I ever cut back on these guys. It's kind of the idea I have now is I was always loving to show off how much energy I felt like these trees have, and I'm not ever going to do that anymore. I'm going to honor that energy. It's the tree's energy, and we're going to save it for a rainy day, I think is what I would say about that. There we go. A little closer to every other one there. And so it's Monday, and it's about 50 degrees, and it feels like rain, but they're not calling for any until the night. as it was. I watered yesterday, and even my wisterias still look damp. So I will probably throw some water on my Japanese wisteria, and I will probably throw some water on my cypress trees because they're cypress trees. While I was all scissor happy, I was watching some programs on the oaks and pruning back the oaks to promote more growth. So about a couple of days ago, well, actually, when I closed out my last video on Saturday, while it was downloading, I was out here doing this, and it has already, in just a couple of days, it's already done that. Maybe I wouldn't show you the, so, yeah, oh look, I didn't see that before I even started rolling. That's good. I could stand to see some more stuff flush out up here. I will not allow this top to go up really tall, but I don't want to cut anything right now because that's still the only piece of energy on this whole branch. But I started looking, and you can kind of tell where the living tissue was, and where the dieback. If you can see the different color, it's not just the diameter of the two twigs, and it's not just that I cut one off 2 days ago. It's more over, this was the color of dieback. So like you can actually see it. This is green. That sprouted on the edge, and that's where the dieback starts. So it doesn't always, sometimes you will see something that you would think is dieback, but it's got a sprig on it. And it may be that sprig is running on its own energy for a second, or it may be that sprig is fighting back, in which case I'll have to learn what's going on there. But this is also the back side. This is the back side of my California oak. The front side of said oak has a hollow feature on it. Can you do that, Patricia? Can you figure that part out, honey? Okay, there we go. I think I'm operating without a viewfinder, but I think I'm possibly showing you the hollow feature of said oak tree. And you know, from the back, it's not unsightly either. But I do have my work cut out for me over the next year or two to get that guy back in some pretty shape. And but that's all part of it. And it helps when you love him to begin with. This has been growing so enthusiastically. I find that I'm thinking more and more and more about what it is that I'm probably going to need to do to this little pine. Says it's a black pine. Doesn't look like a black pine to me. Regardless, it is got shoots all over it, and it seems to be really excited to be here. So in the beginning, it might have been a little bit more excited to be here than I was to have it, but I'm starting to come around. It, God knows I shouldn't start measuring things by how they look. Yeah. Judge that you not be judged, or something like that, I think I once heard. So that's the coral bark oak. It is pretty excited, and it doesn't care if it's winter. And that is a quick look at the Dawn Redwood. I believe moving it over here and taking the top out of that direct, taking the top of the tree out of the direct hit of this light here has caused these buds on top to swell again, which they had been just sitting dormant for weeks. So I'll take that as a good sign. And that's our little quick catch up, mostly on the bald cypress trees. I had some things that I had been looking at on these trees for about 6 months now, and I said, well, everything right now is making good energy. You let it get out that far. Don't let it make things and cut it off before they give back. And to that end, it finally got time to cut some of that off, and I did. So that is how that's going. And everybody else, pines and cypresses and wisterias and whatnot, are all looking good. And Frida and I are dug in on a blustery day and enjoying life on our little balcony. I appreciate you. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. We're going to keep doing this. We got room. We've made room for new trees. I'm trying to figure out what would be good for these empty spots on the rail, but I don't want to throw my pines out there right now because I've discovered how they respond out there. They're not always so crazy about the wind. So that's why those guys are where they are, but I also still have room for more trees. I don't think the oaks care if it's windy. I don't think the ponderosa cares if it's windy, and I've got my ears open for information to hear otherwise. But basically these guys would hang out on a south-facing cliff 100 feet up in the air with just no problem. And I'm thinking that hanging out on my balcony 40 feet off of sea level is probably not going to hurt them in the abuse sense of the word. It may be underperforming for them, but I don't think that they're going to have the same problems that I was having. Also, this guy has never shown any signs of being anything but indifferent to the wind, but it doesn't look like a black pine to me. I don't know whether or not it was mislabeled, and I just don't, or what. But anyway, we're just gonna love you anyway. We're not about the labels, don't you worry. So yeah, thank you so much. And as I mentioned earlier, like and subscribe, and thank you for watching and following Frida and I. And we will see you again on Wednesday.